Hey guys, welcome to episode 32. Got some updates in the fish tank. As you can see in here, the mollies have given birth again. Try to get this to focus. I think this is the third time that they've given birth, and as you can see here, I've got several generations of molly fry that are starting to grow out, and it won't be long before there are too many fish in this tank. But I'll start to move them to other tanks as they start to grow out. Also, you might notice some of the PVC piping down here. I've also got some larger tubing as well, clear tubing. That's because I got some crayfish the other day as well, and I'll try to find one. There's one down in that crack right in the middle of the screen. I don't know if you can see him. He's very small. They're only about an inch long right now, but they are P. clarkii, the white type, and typically they are red, and I think they come from Louisiana, so they need the water to be a little bit warmer. They do okay with a little bit of salt in the water, which I guess is rare for crayfish, but they're very prolific. They're actually what people eat in crawfish boils most of the time, and they get to about 5 or 6 inches, and they drop a couple hundred larvae at a time. So they're typically red, but there's a white color morph, which is the one I got, and then there's an electric blue, and there's an orange as well. I'm trying to find another one of them so I can show you, but they're pretty well hidden. Oh, here's one. Let's see if I can get him right up at the surface there. You see him? He's right up at the surface of the water. He's just kind of like nestled in that little crack. I'm sorry it's not really focusing very well, but they're in there. They're very small. They have long antennas. And they're hiding right now because there are a lot of big fish in the tank. But all of the fish are community fish, so there shouldn't really be any troubles in here. But that's the update with the fish. Now, out here, as you will see, the mangroves have gotten a little upgrade. I have added substrate, and it is fluorite. I did some research, and there are like 3 or 4 different plant substrates that are out there. The one that I intended to buy but I didn't find was Eco Complete, but I believe fluorite is the number 2 choice of planted aquarium enthusiasts. I'm sure the recipes are all a little different, and people are looking for something a little different for each of their tanks, but as you can see, it is a very muddy substrate, which is fine. The mangroves don't really care. I'm sure they love it because that's what they're used to. But you'll also see that a lot of the flecks are red, and that's from high iron content. So it's got a lot of good mineral content in the substrate itself, and what that's going to do is alleviate any of the need to dose the water with some of those minerals, which means probably less frequent water changes, but they still do need to get other trace minerals and micronutrients and macronutrients, which might need to be added daily or weekly in the form of some type of fertilizer, which they will probably need here shortly now that the leaves are taking off. If you see this guy back here, he's the furthest along that I have. You'll notice the leaves are completely green now. They've kind of lost that red waxy look to them. So I think those leaves are done growing, and the next set of leaves is starting, which is cool. Obviously the black mangroves are really well developed now, and even the smallest one has a set of leaves now, so that's cool. I'm really looking forward to these roots starting to grab into the soil, because I want to see what kind of root growth occurs after the roots touch down. Because so far the roots have been floating, they haven't been touching anything. So I'm hoping that when they hit the soil that they really start to take off and they start to grab at the soil, and then they start to straighten themselves out and really start to take off. And I haven't had a chance to see that yet, so that'll be interesting to see. So stay tuned for that. These guys are doing well. They just ate. I fed them for the second time today. And this guy looks like he wants to go to sleep, but these guys look like they want more food, which is always the case. But it's pretty late, so I'm going to turn the lights off on them soon. These guys are already asleep. But I do have one more little project that I'm working on. Because I want to eventually get a form of fertilizer to dose these plants with. What I want to do is I want to actually set up an auto doser on them, and those are usually fairly expensive pumps. They're supposed to dispense like medicine or liquids in a very known quantity over time in hospitals and things like that. They're not really seen very often in the aquarium trade, and they are kind of pricey. But this is a hack that I saw online almost a year ago, and so I couldn't really pass up the opportunity to take advantage of it. And what it is it's an air-wick air freshener, and typically they're wall mounted. You install a couple AA batteries in them, and there's a little pressurized can of air-wick air freshener, and they're about $5. You can find them at any grocery store, really cheap. But the best part about them is the motor. You won't really be able to see it, but up in there's a giant motor, and it's got a lot of power behind it. And because of that, it does wear through the batteries fairly quickly. And you'll see here there aren't any batteries. What I did was, first of all, I took out the batteries, and then I took out the air-wick the canister, and then what I did was up here I modified this holder. It's basically the plunger portion of the air-wick. The motor forces a little lever down, and that sprays the can just like you would with your finger manually. So I used a soldering iron and kind of opened that up a little bit, and then what I did was I took a soap dispenser. I took the top off of a soap dispenser, and I rigged that up to some large diameter clear tubing. And so what that's allowed me to do is stand this thing upright and insert one end into a water source, or in this case, it could be dosed with fertilizer. Obviously not in a household container though, because you don't want anyone drinking it. But this is just a test with water, and then the other end would be sticking into the aquarium. And what that allows you to do is this thing is automatically designed to dose air freshener over time. So in this case, what we've done is we've rigged it to instead be dosing liquid. And the only other modification I made was I clipped the wires that were going from the motor to these battery terminals, and instead what I did was I pulled them out the back, and I got a a variable wattage or voltage, sorry, power charger, AC adapter, and it has settings all the way from 12 volts to 3 volts. And I definitely want to go with the 3 volts because I believe that's what AA batteries are 3 volts when they're in tandem like that. So this basically replicates your AA battery. So when I plug this in and then when I turn this air-wick on, I set it to, I believe it's an 8-minute cycle is the least amount of time. What happens is it'll sit here for a minute, and then what'll happen is you see that little red arm right there. It presses down and then it goes back up, and it goes back up because there's a spring here, and that's how the soap pump typically works. So what happens is when the tube is primed, every 8 minutes it will dose a known amount of liquid. And what I did here, I have a couple marks. I started the experiment a couple days ago, and I let it run for the better part of a day, and this is the difference in the water level here. So what I'll be able to do is replicate this a couple times and get an accurate measurement of how much liquid is being dispensed over time, every hour or every 24 hours, and then I can mix my fertilizer into the water at the appropriate amount that I want based on how much it's going to dose. That way I can kind of adjust what I'm feeding my plants, and I won't have to worry about dosing them with fertilizers because it's on an automated system here. So this is kind of a work in progress, but I'm hoping to get all the bugs worked out of it, and then I'll have it online on my mangrove tank here shortly. The one thing I have to work on right now is I believe this tubing is leaking a little bit. So I'll see if I can seal that up with some silicone, dry it out and silicone it in place or something. But that's kind of what I'm working on for right now. I'm going to unplug this for now. So that's fun. Really excited about that, especially since it only cost me about $5 for the air-wick. So $5 auto doser. If you guys have plants, go and try to make one yourselves. Really excited to see how this substrate does, and I'm really excited for these mangroves to take off. And what I'll probably do is in the springtime, when it gets a little warmer out and when these things are a little bit better established, I'll probably start selling some of them off, the red mangroves, because I don't really have the space for them, and obviously this container is a little cramped for them because they will grow into trees. So if anyone's looking for some healthy, red mangroves, give me a shout, send me a message, because I will be looking to sell these come springtime. The ones that I purchased a year ago aren't nearly this nice because the roots, I could tell, were all grew to one side. So they had a bunch of these wrapped around something, and all of the roots are on one side, which means that it never really had a chance to prop itself up like a tripod. But all of these, since they've been standing straight up in the styrofoam, the roots have gone straight down, and the roots have a nice spread to them. So really looking forward to seeing these guys grab into the gravel and start to take off. And yeah, I'll probably sell them for $1 or $2 a piece, depending on how big they grow, which is comparable to other mangroves that I've seen online. So let me know if you're interested, and I'll see if I can thin some of these out come springtime. But that's all I have for right now. See you guys later.